Hi, we're here at Cell and Gene Therapy World with a man who needs very little introduction, Lee Buckler from Cell. Lee presents a regular feature at the event which kicks things off, which is the top 10 events of the year. So Lee, can you tell us a bit about what made the top 10 this year?
Right, so it's always a great way to launch the conference with the top 10 events and then some sort of analysis of what we've seen in the past year, what we're looking forward in the year coming forward. And so some of the things, I think the overwhelming theme this year for what we saw in cell and gene therapy was the clinical data and the money raised in the gene-modified cell-based immunotherapy space. I mean, just some phenomenal oncology data with gene-modified cell-based therapies by a number of companies, and what follows from the clinical data obviously is excitement from Wall Street and funders who are excited to be able to fund breakthrough therapies that are curing people, really, honestly, potentially curing people of things we've never been able to really affect before therapeutically. So, it was a phenomenal year for all of biotech. It was a record year in terms of IPOs in the healthcare biotech space, and that obviously was enjoyed also largely by the cell-based gene therapy space. We saw, I've just written down some notes, we saw 112% year-on-year growth in terms of money raised in regenerative medicine sector, but that was particularly driven by 510% growth year-on-year in the gene-modified cell-based immunotherapy sector, largely with $3 billion raised by companies in the space, right? So we also saw two breakthrough designations by the FDA of cell-based therapies, which was exciting. This is a new designation which allows for expedited development and potential approval of these therapies. So the fact that cell therapies have received that kind of breakthrough designation is a breakthrough for us, no pun intended, and it's exciting to see that. I think also of note is the evolution of the Japanese regulatory framework. Japanese has carved out a very aggressive early market access program to be able to allow for cell-based therapies to be sold to the Japanese marketplace and provide access to these therapies to Japanese consumers in a way that lets the market decide, really, in an early market access program. So we've seen a lot of market pull, not only from Japanese strategic partners, but also from investors who are looking to bring foreign companies to Japan and foreign products to Japan to allow them to not only to bring products to market, but also for the aging Japanese demographic to have new kinds of therapies available to them. So, we're an example, Replacell Life Sciences is an example of one of the companies from North America who's aggressively pursuing, already with one deal in place, aggressively pursuing more kinds of deals, not only with Japanese strategics, but also investors as well. I think, a couple of the others, on the downside, I think we've seen a downtrend toward approvals anywhere in the world. We saw a peak of 5 cell therapy approvals in 2012, 3 approved in 2013, and while we had one product recommended for approval in Europe this year, no formal approvals of any cell or gene therapies, and so that's a little disappointing and a trend we're definitely looking to watch. We expect more approvals in 2015. And then I think, as always, clinical data drives everything in this field. So we've had some notable clinical failures. We've had some trials postpone readouts from 2014 into 2015. We're definitely keen to see how those trials read out. We're optimistic that some of those will read out positively, and we'll see the market react accordingly. And then I think, lastly, is the number of deals we saw in this space. We saw a record number of deals over the past few years in terms of deals between large life science biopharma companies and small cap companies. So joint ventures, licenses, some acquisitions. Although what's notable, I think there's one notable exception in that this year, and that is that 2 of the M&A plays in the sector, or acquisition type plays, have been reversed. So typically you see small company aspiring to be bought out by big company. And what we saw is 2 major deals of commercial product families divested from large cos into small cos. And while that's not typically the trend one is enthusiastic about, because then these are large companies who are excited about these cell therapy products, they show deal flow and they show enthusiasm, and there are investors in those small cos who are excited about the potential of those companies to do something with those products that large co simply wasn't able to do. So it remains to be seen, but it's exciting nonetheless.